Merry Christmas, everyone. Well, it's not quite Christmas yet, but here we go. I'm prepared to go. I got this. Somebody gave me these. They're ridiculous. Look at them. Anyway, I hope everybody's doing okay. It's been a minute since I've been on. Uh, oh gosh, I've been quite busy actually. I recently got back from a trip. It was kind of an unexpected trip, but everything's so with that. Um, I don't know, kids, man. Anyway, so what else have I been doing? I've been writing, obviously, not as much as I would like, but I go away and come back to it. Go away, come back to it. I want it to be right, and I want to, you know, have it be good. So it's going to be a minute before I'm finished with that for sure. I'm starting a new channel. Well, it's not exactly a new channel. It's an old channel, Just Josie. It's going to be separate from this, and I'm going to be doing different things on there. It's going to be a smorgasbord of different things. Some cooking. I'm going to show you some of my hauls that I get from Temu and Amazon. I'm going to be doing some reactions to other creators, not in this genre, in other genres, because I haven't watched very much in this genre at all, because it just sounds like the same old regurgitated bullshit. And it's gotten so old I can't even be asked with it, to be honest. But I've watched a few things, but not as much as I once did. But my new channel, well, it's not new, Just Josie. It's the old channel, but I'm going to have them doing different things. Some of the other genres here, you think this one's bad? Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet. Nothing. I could hardly believe, the lengths some people will go to when they don't like somebody on here, or they don't agree with somebody on here. We think this is bad. No. But I'll be working on that in the upcoming few days, and putting some content on it. I don't have any subscribers, so when it comes on, please everyone subscribe. You don't necessarily always have to watch, but if I can at least get to 500 so that I can do a community page, because I want to put stuff on there too, and we'll see what happens. Anyway, as I said, I hadn't been watching hardly anything. Here and there I caught bits and pieces, and what I did see was Chris Casparosa once again has come up with, I guess he calls it receipts. I don't know what that piece of paper was. And I put it on my big screen to try and read it, and it had like Casparosa watermark through it, and I didn't even understand really what that meant. But the gist of it was that MRE was questioned, I guess, as a suspect with regards to fiddling with a 3-year-old. Now, I was just like, oh my God, seriously? And here's why. People can be questioned, if, let's say something happened, let's just say it did, and there's more than one person around, they're going to question people. I've watched stuff where, these cold case files where people, the case is given, it's cold for years, so they give it to new detectives, and whoever was questioned at the time or suspected at the time, let's say someone died, 4 people were questioned. Well, those 4 people were regarded as suspects. So they go back over their statements and stuff like that. Did they do it half the time? No. it goes nowhere. But they were suspected. And so that doesn't mean they did anything wrong. And furthermore, my thing with that is, if I've been in America a long time, but I know if that happened in where I lived in England, and people even suspected that, they wouldn't be walking around, they'd be dead, literally. And so I think it's really irresponsible to put stuff out there in the universe like that when you don't have 100% proof of what you're saying. That piece of paper was nothing, meant nothing really. When you're going to say something as heinous as that, show the proof. There wasn't any. Not only that, I mean, when you look at it, let's say that did happen, MRE would be on a sex offender registry, probably for life. There would be record of his conviction. He would have probably gone to prison for a very long time. And where he lives, I'm pretty damn sure it's similar to where I lived in London. They hear that, they're coming for blood. He wouldn't be walking around. So that's what makes me think that's a load of crap. That's why I know it's a load of crap. Because if it wasn't, there would be a record of it, and there isn't one, is there? So I think it's very irresponsible to get up here and just say anything you like about people. It really is, because on my Just Josie channel, I'm going to show you why and how it affects people, and some of the ramifications that can happen because of that. Anyway, so that's where it is. I just thought it was disgusting. I thought it was a reprehensible thing to do. It was mean, it was spiteful, because there is no evidence of that at all. And I don't think that's something you should necessarily get up and put in the universe and actually say, well, this is what he did, without showing this is what he did. That's where I am with that. Anyway, so courts, lawyers and judges, oh my. It is like being in the Wizard of Oz. So I'm just going to give you all a quick update. So what happened is, the last time I went to court, the courtroom was packed. I mean, it was a really busy day. And it was a different judge, a new judge. I hadn't seen him before. And I was first up, because I've probably been going, it's been going on for so long. I'm probably at the top of the freaking list by now. I've made the list, so I didn't have to sit there through everybody else's stuff. Anyway, so he calls my name, he calls his, I stand up. And then there's this voice from across the way says, well, I'm here for Mr. Espinosa. I think that's what he said. It was hard to hear him. Anyway, so he mumbled a couple of words, and then the judge is looking at me. So I said, well, from my perspective, I expected to come in here and be told he wasn't served again. This is a bit of a surprise, because I find it very odd that for all these months we've been trying to serve him at this same address that I gave you, and he didn't live there. Nobody heard of him. Now all of a sudden he's there, they hear of him. I find that very odd. So I said, anyway, I wasn't prepared for that. So the judge said, okay, well, we'll continue it until January. So I looked at the attorney, and he seemed like really familiar, but I couldn't think from where I felt like I knew him, but not know him to talk to, but I'd seen him, and it was possible because I could have seen him at the courthouse before, or, and then it kind of came to me, but we'll get into that in a minute. So I decided at this point, see, the thing is, I didn't have an attorney handling this up until this point. My attorney, some of you will remember Ernie, the attorney, he passed away last year, and everybody went to Ernie. I went to Ernie for everything virtually, and it's weird him not being around, to be honest. But anyway, so I was thinking, okay, well, who do I know? Well, he used to have these parties every Christmas. In fact, on my community page, or I think I put a short up of one of his parties. It was just a short clip of him singing. He loved My Girl, that song, My Girl. Oh my God, that was Ernie's song. Anyway, so I thought, well, it's now time to get an attorney because I don't know what's happening now. You know what I mean? So I made a few phone calls because of these parties. I know a lot of the attorneys, because a lot of the attorneys would go to the party along with the judges, and they'd eat and whatever. And so over the years, you get to know people, or, not necessarily always talk to them, but, but I had, I had a couple of friends. So I called this particular friend. Now, he's a family law attorney. And I said to him, can you meet up with me later? So, I want to pick your brain because now Ernie's gone. I need someone to be able to handle this. So prior to this, a girlfriend of mine, she's going through a real messy, horrible divorce. And she needs an attorney. She had a court date coming up. And she had told me, she said, and it's true, actually. I was so used to just picking up the phone and calling Ernie. When you need like a new attorney for something new, it's difficult because what a lot of them do, they'll charge you the consultation fee, and then that's it. You know what I mean? If you don't like them, and the consult's not necessarily cheap. I mean, anywhere from $125 to $200, and in between. So it's not necessarily cheap, even just to get the consultation. So she said she'd had a bit of trouble. She'd seen she'd paid for a couple of consultations, but it's draining her money. She's got 2 little kids, young kids, and she's struggling. So I said, strangely enough, I'm meeting up with a friend of mine. He's a family law attorney, and he's done it for 30 years. I said, I'll mention it to him and see if he can't kind of help you out a little bit here. So she said, oh, that would be great. So I'll meet up with my friend, and I told him basically what happened from start to finish. I didn't go into the whole thing, but, essentially what happened. I let him listen to the videos, a few of them, the worst ones. And the first thing he said to me was, you need to go to the FBI with this. So I'm like, why? He said, well, it's actually an interstate. He went into all these law jargon stuff. And so I said, well, no, that wasn't in my head. I said, as far as I know, anyway, from what I understand, they've already had a word with him, but I don't know if that's true or not, because you never know what's true on here or not, do you? So I said, I don't know if that's true or not, but as far as I know, from what I understand, they've already talked to him. I don't know for sure. Anyway, that's not where I am at with it. I'm dealing with this right now. I don't, I can't be asked with the rest of it. So he said, well, if you were my client, that's what I said. Well, who can deal with it? Because, Ernie's gone now. So he said, I've got the guy for you. He said, we went to law school together. We took the bar together. He said, and we've worked alongside each other for years, here in town. He said, what I'm going to do, he said, I'm going to call him first thing in the morning. He said, and you call him around 10 and I'll give him a heads up of what's going on. So when you call him, he'll be aware. So I'm like, okay, that'll be great. And I told him about my girlfriend. He says, sure, have her come in and, call me and we'll set something up, And I told him, go easy on her because, she's paying for all these freaking consultations. She's got a court date coming up, Anyway, so after I left him, I met up with her. I called her. And she said, so I said, well, I spoke to my friend and he said, call him, whatever. So she said, well, how did you get on? And I said, well, he has someone, a friend of his that he's worked alongside for years. And she said, well, what was his name? So I said the name. And she said, oh, hell no. So I said, what do you mean, oh, hell no? I said, he was like bigging him up and singing his praises. She said, nope. She said, I had a consultation with him. She said, and I think she paid $125, $150. And she said, she said, it all went well. She said, I liked what he had to say. I felt good about him. So she said, I was going to hire him. She said, but every time I called him, he didn't return calls. The office didn't return calls. She couldn't get up with him for love nor money. And so I said, well, that's on you. She said, I know. She said, I don't understand it. She said, I was going to hire him. And he never responded back. Never heard from him at all. So as we're talking, there was a group of people kind of here, and there was this guy. So he said, excuse me, he said, I don't mean to interrupt. He said, but did you say the name of this attorney? So I said, yeah. So he said, oh, no. He said, she's right. I said, what do you mean? So he said, well, I was going through a real bad divorce. He said, I went to a consultation with him. I couldn't get up with him either. He said, I was going to hire him. So I thought, how weird, how odd. And why the hell would my friend, tell me to go to him? I'm thinking, this is weird. So he said, yeah, he said, it just seems to be a thing. He said, no, I wouldn't recommend him at all. So I'm like, okay. So I'm like, oh, hell. So I made a couple more phone calls with a couple of other friends, and they put me on to an attorney. So I called and went and saw him the next day or a couple of days later. And when I walked in, I knew him from Ernie's party, and that's where I knew the other guy from. I don't know him to speak to. I've never talked to him or anything like that, but he looked very familiar. And I think it must have been from one of Ernie's parties, because this guy used to be at Ernie's party, but I didn't know him either. He was just someone that I just saw in passing. Because sometimes they would just pop in, they'd eat and leave, and then other people would hang around and do the karaoke. But, these two weren't one of them. So that's why I wasn't really familiar with him. Excuse me. So he said, well, what's going on? So I explained it again, let him listen. And I told him what happened on when I last went to court. He said, well, what the guy looked like? I said, he looked really familiar. I said, I remember, I think it could be from one of Ernie's parties, but it could have been at the courthouse, but I wasn't sure, but I think that's where it was. Anyway, so he said, well, let's have a look. So he goes in, gets on his computer, and he looks, and he said, oh, it's so-and-so. He said, yeah, I know him. So I said, well, what do I do now? And I explained to him the situation. I said, the way it is, I was reached out to by acquaintances of his, basically saying that he will leave me alone and that's it, you know. And that's really what I wanted. I said, but now that's kind of changed. Other people are now involved that are coming as witnesses. So what do I need to do? You know, do I need to get my witnesses, have the video evidence brought in? I mean, how's it going to go? You know, I don't know. So he said, well, you know, he said really, he wasn't sure at this point. He said, what I'm going to do, he said, I'm going to call him and see what the situation is. He said, and then we'll know how to go, you know, what way we're going to go from there. So he said, I'll call you later in the day or tomorrow, you know, once I've spoken to him. Because I said, well, yeah, I said, I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do when we were in court. I didn't know because it was so busy, you know, it kind of threw me off guard that he was even there, that he'd even been served. So I was kind of, you know, and I wanted to be prepared, you know, so I do want to be prepared, you know, for whatever it is. So he said, okay, well, he said, I'll call him and we'll call you tomorrow. So the afternoon went by, I didn't hear from him. Next day, didn't hear from him. So I called up there and his assistant said he hasn't been able to get up with him. I mean, seriously. And to date, I spoke with him yesterday. He hasn't been able to get up with him. So that's where it is. We have a new court date coming up. I'll get with him before the court date, my attorney, to see. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. You know, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, to be honest. And what he said to me yesterday was, you know, he said, well, you know, until we know how the land lies, you know, we don't really know how to proceed or what we're proceeding with. You know, do we proceed with just proving the case or what? I said, well, yeah, you know, it's not, look, this isn't the O.J. Simpson trial. You know what I mean? It's just a case of leave me the hell alone. That's it. You know, but then if it's got to go there, then it's got to go there. I can prove my case, you know, but who knows? Anyway, between now and the court date, which is coming up, hopefully he'll get a hold of him and we know what's going on. I don't know. Anyway, so as I left, you know, the first time, I called my friend and I said, hey, I said, well, here's the thing, but let me back up. So after these two had told me this and said, oh, you know, they couldn't get a hold of him, they paid for the consultation, la, la, la. I decided, no, you know, obviously I'm not going with him. I'm going to have to find someone else, which is what I did. And so after my first visit with this new attorney, I called my friend and I said, yeah. I said, what the hell are you trying to put me onto that guy for? I said, from what I'm hearing, he doesn't return calls. He doesn't get back to people. You know, that's two people. One was a random stranger that just happened to hear us talking. I said, he said, oh, really? He said, well, I'm surprised by that, you know. But then I'd heard things around town not so favorable, if you will. But I mean, I don't know the guy, but I just thought it was very odd that two people are saying the same thing. So I'm hoping that my attorney will be able to get up with him at some point, you know. I don't know, because if he doesn't, I don't know what's going to happen. So that's where we are with that, you know. I just thought it was funny. And I just thought it was funny when I said his name and she said that. I was like, oh my God, what are the odds? Oh, that was it. When he asked me who his attorney was, and I said, oh, I don't know. I said, I kind of recognize him. He said, let's look it up. And he said his name. I laughed. I did laugh. He said, what are you laughing at? I said, oh my God. I said, you know, so-and-so. I told him my friend's name. I said, he had advised me to go with him because they'd been to law school together and whatever. I said, and people are saying they can, you know, they do the consultation and then they can't get up with him after the consultation. I said, so I just find that highly amusing, like, oh my God. And out of everybody, it has to be him, and that's who he has. Do you know what I mean? I'm just thinking, oh my God, my friend's telling me go with him, and it turns out to be his. And I did call him, you know, and I said, the hell? He said, oh my God. I said, well, don't worry. He said, well, there's you can always go see. I said, well, don't worry about it. I've got one now. And he said, what's his name? And he said, oh, yeah, I know him. He said, yeah, he's been around a long time and, you know, he knows what he's talking about. And he said he will fight for you. So I said, okay, well, that works for me. I said, I kind of, you know, I liked him and, you know, he seems okay. So anyway, that's where that is as of right now. Now then, I'm going to get off. I'll be starting my Just Josie channel soon. I'm going to put something up. Please all subscribe. Get me to 500 so that I can get the community page at least. And, you know, we'll see how it goes. I'm going to be doing other things on there. This is mainly for this arena, for Chronicles 2 and stuff like that. I'm going to do that on this channel and the other stuff on the other. Anyway, so everybody take care. If I'm not on before Christmas, I'll be on right after. And everyone have a safe, happy holiday. And I'm going to be doing some, I'm going to see what it is. Thanksgiving, I always do like the American food, Thanksgiving food. Christmas, I always do the British way. So I'm going to be doing it the British way. I'm going to show you what I'm going to be cooking and show you when it's all done. I'll be doing that on the Just Josie channel. But everyone take care. Have a great holiday and stay safe. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.